see Kevin's here. I see Matt's here. I see Scott's here. I see Eric's here. How's it going, everybody? Hey, girl. Hey, my people. How you doing, Matt? How you doing, Scott? Hungry? You gotta eat before these things, man. What's up, cool dad? What's up, cool to people? Scott's tired. Scott's old. Scott's always tired. Give it one more minute. Let the people trickle in. And we'll roll into this. It is stream time. Hey, Reckless. Finished project last night? At least the project's done. Half glass full on that one. There will be no Bitcoin exploitation attempts. But you can do that. And then write a blog on it. And see if you go to prison too. Do a hacking course? I don't do hacking courses. Come on. Who am I? All right, guys. No more stalling. Let's go ahead and get to the PowerPoint. Our favorite part of the day. What's up, Brewery? Uh-oh. Okay, there we go. Didn't look like it wanted to work. It is not week 7, it is week 8. You can tell that I definitely didn't put a lot of effort into this PowerPoint. As you'll see, there's only 3 or 4 slides. Welcome to week 8 of Zero to Hero. So today's agenda, got a little bit of housekeeping, very, very quick housekeeping. We're going to build an Active Directory lab. We're going to do a little bit of AD exploitation tonight, and then we're going to do our AMA like always. Thank you, Not So Pro, for the sub. I appreciate that. All right, housekeeping. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern. That's the same time this is starting. Your favorite person, Joe, will be back. Rory will be back. He will be teaching us Exploit Development Part 2. So we're going to be doing more assembly, focusing on system calls. He's going to be doing Hello World and ASM. He's going to be doing some egg hunting and a little bit more. So if you are behind on the series for exploit development, go to the YouTube channel and check that out. Do some catch up before tomorrow night. It should be a good stream. You guys liked him last time a lot, and he wanted to come back, and you guys wanted him back. So Joe will be here. Other news, and I am going to repeat this on every stream leading up because you people will forget. No stream on Wednesday, May 29th. So the goal right now is to have this course finished maybe by the end of this month. I haven't figured it out. We're going to spend 3 weeks on Active Directory, I think, maybe 2 weeks. And what we're going to do is on Wednesday, the 29th, I'm going to be out of town. So we may do a double stream Monday and Tuesday of that week and wrap up the course. That way we can knock it out by the end of May, and then June we'll start fresh with something new. I don't have everything planned out yet, but hopefully we can get it all done. We can say we went 0 to hero and wrap up this course. So that's the goal for now. That may change, but do note again, no stream Wednesday, May 29th. We don't need this slide yet. That is for later. All right. So I sent out homework to you guys. The homework was to just download a couple of ISOs. ISO number 1 is this Windows Server 2016. I'm going to copy this and paste this in the chat if you don't already have it, if you're not on the mailing list. Also, Windows 10 Enterprise. And all you need to do is, if you're watching this at a later time on a recorded video, come into this area here for Windows Server 2016. It's an evaluation of 180 days, so that's perfect for our lab. Just click ISO, hit continue, and then you'll enter in some information, first name, last name, company name, etc. Hit continue. They may or may not send you an email. It really doesn't matter. It'll automatically download the ISO. So you can put in fake information if you like. Same thing goes for the Windows 10 Enterprise. You're going to say ISO Enterprise. You're going to hit continue on that and download it. So in a perfect world where we already have sent out the homework, we're going to say that that's already done, and we're going to just get started right away into installing these ISOs. Now, I could have had you install these yourselves, but there's a few, I'd say 2 actually, quirks about this that we need to note in order to get it installed. So let's go ahead and just take a look at that. Now tonight I'm going to be using my VMware Pro, and I'm going to say a couple of caveats about what we're getting into in this course. That is that everything we're doing, we're going to be running 3 VMs at once. If you do not have a lot of RAM or you don't have a super fast computer, this is going to be very slow for you. So make sure that you keep the settings at 2 gigabytes of RAM and just let things run. It's even a little slow for me because I don't want to stream, run 3 VMs, and keep my fingers crossed that it's going to work or not. So we're going to build this out together. It may be hard to follow along if you don't have a super fast computer. If you don't, just watch the stream, sit back, enjoy yourself, and learn some lessons on how you would set up Active Directory. And we're going to cover the first part of the exploitation tonight with the LLMNR poisoning. So sitting in Workstation 15 Pro, I'm going to hit Create New Machine. If you have just the regular workstation, the workstation player, you're just going to have to create a new machine, open another workstation player, create a new machine again, and have all 3 running. If you've been doing that already with the previous lessons when we did Captrix, you should kind of have a little bit of a hint on how to do this. So we'll create the new machine, and it's going to say what kind of configuration do you want. And we're going to say typical. And then I've already installed this once before, so it's going to say, hey, where do we want to grab that ISO? I'm grabbing the data center ISO first, so we're going to install Server 2016 first. And we're going to hit next. Now it's going to ask you for a product key. We're not going to put one in because this is a test ISO. So we're going to say Windows Server 2016 Standard Core. You can have your name. You don't have to put a password in here. And just hit next. It's going to say you didn't enter a product key. Yes, we want to continue. Okay, it's going to try to put it in my users, documents, virtual machines. If you've got space, I don't have a ton of space on my SSD, so I've got some other SSDs that I'm going to put this onto. So I've already made a little directory for it. I'm just going to copy and paste. Put this under Win Server. Hit next. Okay, maximum size, 60 gigabytes is what I'm selecting. You could select less. I just leave it at default because what we're going to do is we're going to do something called splitting the virtual disk, meaning that we're only going to take up the amount of space that we need up into 60 gigabytes. You could also store it as a single file, and that will take up the full 60 gigabytes, but this allows for expansion and doesn't take up the full size, I believe. So what we're going to do is just hit next on this. And then we are going to make sure, by default, I believe power on this virtual machine is checked. Make sure it is unchecked. And hit finish. All right, so now we're at this screen, Windows Server 2016. Let's go ahead and just hit Edit Virtual Machine Settings. what happens is they use this auto install floppy file for whatever reason. So it's got this floppy device here using this auto install. We're going to remove that because that causes a lot of issues on install. It's looking for a license, and we don't have a license because we're just demoing this out. So let's go ahead and remove that, and then we'll hit power on this machine and get your fingers ready because you're going to have to hit a key to continue. Or else it'll go through the boot menu, try to pixie boot. I don't know why. That's the default boot method. So make sure that you are booting into this first. So if you've ever installed Windows before, this is probably boring for you. I apologize in advance. We're going to hit next and hit install now. And we'll let this run. Okay, we'll do a little bit of multitasking. And I'm going to come out of full screen here. Actually, let this go into standard. We're going to go standard evaluation, desktop experience, because this gives us a GUI. So make sure you click the desktop experience and hit next. And once we get the actual install running, we'll go ahead and move over to the Windows 10. Okay, accept your terms, sell your baby, whatever it is that we do. We're going to select custom install Windows only, advanced. We're going to hit this little new button down here. It's going to auto partition for us. Just hit apply. Say OK. Thanks for the sub, Flutsec. I appreciate that. And we're going to hit next. Okay, so let's let this install. This will take a few minutes, not too long. While this is installing, we're going to multitask just a little bit. We're going to create another virtual machine. Again, we're going to say typical. And I've got this copied for the other ISO. So select your Windows 10 ISO. And it should come up. Same thing, Windows 10 Enterprise. Hit next. Hit enter. Again, I have a server for this, or a folder for this, I should say. Hit next on this guy. Same thing, 60 gigabyte file. I'm going to hit next. Again, we're not going to power on the virtual machine after creation because same thing here. It tries to install that floppy disk. And you can see things are starting to run a little bit slower. And that's okay. We've got time. So let's go ahead and remove this floppy disk again and hit OK. And we're also going to power this guy on. Get our fingers ready. Hit our key there to get it running. Close out of this. Okay, your Windows setup will automatically restart. We're going to try to multitask to just speed this up a little bit tonight. I've only got one lesson planned, so if we finish early, we finish early. Everybody gets to go to bed sooner. Or stay up and party, whatever your prerogative is. So on the Windows 10 side, I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Install now. MTX was complaining to me earlier that this was going to be boring and he wasn't going to be here to enjoy this, but look, he showed up. The basics are important. You've been up since 4:30, Jeff? You're living that Air Force life, my friend. All right, if your Windows setup's ready, accept the license terms. Hit next. Custom install again. New on the bottom. It's the same concept. It's going to create additional partitions for us because it's nice like that. It's going to run through the same installation the server did. All right. So, customize settings. It's asking for a password. I'm going to be making my password the insecure password. It has to have some uniqueness to it, and I'll type this into the chat in a second. But it's capitalized P at $, lowercase w, 0, RD, exclamation, hit enter. So if you want my password, if you want to use that, that's fine. If you want to use your own password, do whatever. But for this instance, we're using password as I just sent to chat. All right. Send all, control delete. We're going to log in as the administrator. Let's let that build a profile here. It shouldn't take that long. Windows 10 is going to be the one that's going to be fun because it restarts and then Cortana starts talking, and we all know how we feel about Cortana. Do we want to be discoverable? Sure, we'll be discoverable. So we're going to have to reboot, most likely. Yeah, in order to actually get the full screen on this. That's fine. Okay, this is still installing. All right, so we're going to rename this server here in a second and do some settings, and then we should be good to go. So I right click on the little Windows icon and I go to System. And we're going to change the name up here. I'm going to say change settings. And then to rename this computer, change its domain workgroup, click change. We're just renaming the computer right now. So I came up with a theme for this. The theme I'm going to be using is the Marvel Universe. So we're going to be calling the domain controller Hydra, since there are a bunch of evil hacker people, etc. And we're going to try to hack into Hydra. And we'll create some fun people along the way. But let's rename this Hydra. Let's use it as an excuse to reboot the machine and hopefully get to full screen on this sucker. You can see how slow things are going. That's okay. Restart now. Windows 10 is going to get stuck in getting ready for a while. Cortana will just pop in when she feels like it. Pretty much what she does anyway. All the accounts in your Sans course were named after Marvel characters? That's awesome. I'm not a DC guy. I do like Batman, though. If I'm going too fast, please, please slow me down. We've got nothing but time tonight. MTX, you're lost. Bro, you were the one telling me that this was easy stuff. Why do we need this lesson? I renamed the domain controller to Hydra. You can rename it whatever you like. We're still not getting the full screen, which is weird. We may have to install VMware tools, maybe. Don't know if it's worth it. It's not worth it for tonight. Let's see. If this requires a full reboot, we'll see. We'll do a complete install. Install. You guys didn't see that? There is a VM up here, and it says install VMware tools. Just do that. reboot the machine. MTX, no more questions. We'll get out of work group when we're out of work group. Your Windows 10 should still be spinning. You can install Server 2016 faster than you can Windows 10. Let that be a life lesson for you. Let's see if this worked. Heyo. Good job, team. All right. So while we still wait for Windows 10, we are going to start working on our Active Directory. Somebody said their server is just finishing up its install. I will go as slow as possible and drag this out just a tad if I can.
Hi there. I'm Cortana.
Oh, there's Cortana.
I'm here to help.
We can stall just a little bit.
A little sign in here, a touch of Wi-Fi there, and we'll have your PC ready for all you plan to do. Use your voice or the keyboard along the way.
Let's
and
mute
if
her.
you'd like me to stay quiet, just select the little micro.
There we go. Tick-tock, tick-tock. All right, start with your region. I'm in the United States. We're going to start with the United States here. Is this keyboard layout right? Yes. Skip the second keyboard layout. I'm unsure how long this part takes. We still have to log in, go through the hello screen, all that fun jazz. Whoops, didn't mean to bring that up. All right. So we're gonna go down here and say domain join instead. That's just gonna let us create an account. So I'm just gonna name this one Frank for the account, local account. Create a super memorable password. All right. What should we name it? Password 1. Let's see if it lets us do that. It does. So password 1 with a capital P. Nothing insanely complicated. That'll come into play later. We have security questions. That's fun. What's your first pet's name? Bob. Where did we grow up? We'll say we grew up in Chicago. And what's your childhood nickname? We'll say our nickname was Bobbert, if I could spell it. Do we want Cortana? Hell no, we don't want Cortana. Decline. No activity history. Look at all this stuff it wants to just spy on us with, guys. We don't want any of this. Hit accept. Turn that all off and hit accept. Okay, we'll let Cortana do her thing. And it's going to go through this whole screen. So while it's doing that, let's install. Sorry, I went to my Kali. Go to server 2016. And let's start working on setting up our domain. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to say, we're going to be in the server manager that should have popped up on start. You're going to say add roles and features. It's going to give you this little wizard. Just hit next on this page. We're going to be doing role-based or feature-based installation. Hit next. And it's going to ask you to select a server from the pool. We're going to be selecting Hydra. All right, now what kind of server roles do we want? Well, we're going to be installing Active Directory domain services. So we're going to check that box and say add features. And that should be it. So make sure, again, you check this box and hit add features. But this is where if you wanted to add like a DNS server, DHCP, you want to add IIS, for example, remote desktop, you can come in here and add these features. Okay, we hit next. It's going to add group policy management, some .NET framework it looks like. We can just hit next on that. Next on the domain services. And then we are going to just hit install. So this is going to take a second to install, and then we're going to have to promote the server here in a second. Should name the controller Red Skull and use Hydra for domain. Yeah, that'd be a good idea. We're just going to use Marvel for the domain. All right, looks like we are done here. We're installed. I'm just going to hit close. You see we've got a little notice up here. And post deployment configuration, promote this server to a domain controller. We're going to click that. All right, and then we have some options. Add a domain controller to an existing domain. We don't have one. We don't have an existing forest. So what we're going to do is create a new forest. And we're going to call this marvel.local. Hit next. Might take a second. Okay, Windows Server 2016, perfect. We're going to have a directory services restore mode. We're just going to use password again because we're terrible admins. Okay, hit next. Leave DNS delegation blank, hit next. It's going to generate the NetBIOS name. It should be Marvel. Takes forever. Too fast, I will slow down. Where are you stuck, Morse? Help me help you, sir. Thank you for the cheer, anonymous cheer. Install the server earlier per YouTube video. Windows is just now finishing. That's fine. We're not touching Windows 10 yet. So Windows 10 should be logged in like this. We're just touching Windows 2016. The server 2016. All right, so with Marvel here, once it populates in the NetBIOS domain name, we're going to hit next. It's going to give us the paths for the sysvol and stuff here in a second. The NTDDS. Maybe. Okay, so leave these on default. Just hit next. We're going to go ahead and just accept all of these options. We're just reviewing the options. This is going to populate. We're just going to hit install. someday. All right. So basically all it does is a prerequisite check to make sure that you can make this a domain. We pass that check, we hit install, it does the installation. This will take a little bit of time, and then we can join our domain controller with our Windows 10 machine. So tonight there's only going to be one lesson in terms of exploitation. We're not going to exploit too much. We're going to carry on into more exploitation next week. Is this only possible with Windows 10 Enterprise? No, this is possible with Windows 10 Pro as well. I just don't think Windows 10 Home you can join a domain. So whichever ones you can join a domain with, I believe Pro and above. Okay, you're going to get signed out. It's going to restart the machine. Congrats, Solo. You got your cert in a week. That's pretty impressive. I enjoyed the eWPT. That's a good one. I have to take the WPTX exam in 1 week. I'm just thinking I'm going to delay it because I don't have time. Somebody said education can join a domain. That sounds believable. I'll take it as I believe it. So we'll let this apply the settings. And you guys can ask me questions while we're waiting. We don't have to have dead air. If you've got AMAs, or I'll start picking AMAs. All right, I've got AMAs from the CyberSec Lounge that that I can pull from. So if you guys didn't hear the news, the CyberSec Lounge, Davey has stepped away to focus on family. So he handed over server ownership to me a couple days ago. I'm running that server as a mentor capacity. Really, it's run by the mods over there. Prior to his stepping down, we were going to be doing an AMA tonight, and that did not happen because it would be weird to AMA me as coming in as an owner. So instead, I'm going to take some of the questions and turn them into a video, but I'm also going to pick some of these questions tonight if we've got a little downtime while we wait, and just answer some of those. Somebody just asked, why are we doing server 2016 instead of 2019? There's no real reason. Server 2016 is just more common right now, so we absolutely could do the same things on 2019. I don't know what the little differences or nuances are between 2019. I haven't got to play with it yet. So 2016 is more common. It's even really more common to see like 2012 still in a lot of environments. So it's better to use an outdated server when we're teaching this stuff. At least for the next 3 or 4 years, you're going to be seeing way more of 2016 than you are 2019. That's just how it works. So when we spun up Server 2016 and made a domain controller, didn't install Active Directory services by default. That is correct. Well, we didn't make it a domain controller. We made a domain controller when we turned on Active Directory services. So up until that point, it wasn't a domain controller. We promoted it to one. Windows Server 2016 is bare bones by default. Yeah, you have to configure it how you want to configure it. Terminal asked, am I going to DEF CON this year? I am not going to DEF CON with one caveat. I applied to speak at B-Sides Las Vegas. If I get into B-Sides Las Vegas, I will stay through the weekend and hang out, do LobbyCon at DEF CON, and just chill, because I know a lot of people I know are going to be there, so I'd like to definitely meet up with some friends and just have a good time. But so if I get into B-Sides Las Vegas as a speaker, then I will absolutely come out. If not, then it is what it is. All right, somebody asked, Discount Bin Laden asked, where do you get your news from? I mainly get my news from Twitter or any of the communities that I'm in. So really, like, being a part of quite a few Discord channels or being a part of VetSec, just joining those kind of channels that have categories for news. But Twitter's a really big one. Even news outlets are really big for cyber news. Ars Technica is not a bad place to get your news at as well. So it just depends. But mainly it's Twitter and communities. Have I ever been to DEF CON? Yes, I have been to DEF CON. I've been there one time. I am open to going back one more time for somebody to change my opinion on how I felt. It could have been the company that I was with, but as far as it was, I didn't enjoy myself that much. I'll answer a couple more questions. Any tips for security analyst interview? I will get you that after the fact. Ask me that again. I've got links for that, and then we'll talk. And then somebody said eWPT to eCPPT to OSCP. Is that a good path? Yeah, that's fine. However you want to do it, Solo. I think all of those certs would be a really good way to break into the industry. Yeah, you can PM me if we're friends. If not, just add me, Eric, and we'll go from there. I've got links for you. All right. So we are back into this. So let's all Control Delete with our little 3 buttons up here. Now you see that we are Marvel/administrator. We are on the domain. I left my caps lock on. After you promoted the domain controller, you did something. What did you do? So when I hit promote, you are going to name your root domain. You're going to hit add a new forest, name your root domain. You're going to add a password after that where it says to add the DSRM, and then you're pretty much going to just next through all of that and hit install. All right, so now we should be on our domain. So we can come into tools in here and we can say Active Directory users and computers. Click on this. If we click on the forest of marvel.local and you say domain controllers, you can see the Hydra is now acting as our domain controller. We also have users down here. So we've got an administrator. Looks like a default account has been disabled. Guest account has been disabled. You can tell by the little logo next to them. So what we'll do is we will, at least I think it's disabled. What we'll do is we're going to right click on this users group here. And we're going to say new, and we're going to say user. So you guys should know what Marvel character I'm a fan of. That is my man, Frank Castle. And what we're going to do is we're going to say F Castle, first initial, last name, hit next. We have to set a password for him. Let's make it something kind of basic. Let's also make this password one, PASSWORD1, if it lets us do that. Capital P, rest is lowercase, and then a 1. We'll say password never expires because we're bad admin. Finish. Techno Bro, hey Techno Bro, how are you doing, man? All right, so we've got Frank Castle. Let's go over to our Windows 10 machine. And let's install our VMware tools while we're at it to make this nice and pretty. And I think it's a little different. You can't just right click on system to change the, well, I guess you can here. So we can rename the PC. So I'm gonna name this, well, he's the Punisher, right? We'll call it the Punisher for his PC name. And we'll reboot everything when we have the opportunity to here in a second. Do a complete install on the VMware tools setup. We'll restart later on this one. Close out. Thank you, Techno. I appreciate it. Okay, finish. And we're going to reboot. Should give us a new view on things and a new computer name. Thought my computer just froze there. It was the mouse stuck on the screen. It wasn't going anywhere. It was stuck in the VM. But the mouse wasn't moving, so that was fun. All right. Let's go ahead and type in Frank's insecure password, a password 1. Okay. And now we're going to join a domain, which is a little different. I just type in domain. It says access work or school. I click on that. And then we hit connect here. And I don't think this is going to work. Join this device to a local Active Directory domain. I don't believe this is going to work. We're going to try it though. So we'll say marvel.local. Hit next. It's not going to find it. Okay, so we got to do one other thing in here. So let's go into the server 2016. Do command prompt, and we're going to say ipconfig. Now, my address is 202.133. Whatever your address is, just copy this. We're going to go right-click on the little internet icon, open your network and internet settings. And that's going to get in the way. We may have to just cancel this. I never know how to get there. Let's say change connection properties. And then I think I hit back and it just takes me there. Yeah, that's how I know. It used to be an easy right-click, go to adapter settings. Change adapter options right here. And then you come to this Ethernet 0, you right click, you say properties. Go to IPv4, double click on it. And we're going to use a DNS server. Again, IP address is 202.133 for me. well, I'll do the old 8.8.8.8 on here. Hit OK. OK. It may or may not work. We may have to flush the DNS. Let's close out of that. Actually, let's see if we can full screen. There we go. And we're going to say domain again, access worker school. Hit connect. Join this device to a local Active Directory domain. Let's try this one more time. There you go. So now we get the pop-up. So our user is fcastle. Our domain is going, or our password is password1. Hit OK. So he's going to be a standard user. Hit next. And we're going to restart. Somebody said 1.1.1.1. True. Somebody said control net connections from command as a shortcut. I've never used that one. I'll have to try that. So this should start rebooting if it's nice. Let's just give it a nudge. And when we come back, we should have Marvel and Frank Castle. Meaning that we have officially joined the domain, we are on our Active Directory environment, and now we can start doing some malicious things. Let's make sure that that is true. I'll give you guys a minute to catch up as well. Okay, again, Marvel F Castle. Let's go ahead and log in. Good old Frank's logging in. He's going to have his profile built for the first time. We've all seen this screen too many times in our lives, I'm sure. All right, while this is going, let's go ahead and go back over to Windows Server 2016. And what we're going to do is we're going to create our first scenario. And this is going to be one of the things we focus on a lot in this lesson over the next coming weeks is we're going to be focusing on SMB because SMB is one of the most exploitable things that we're going to have. Now, for LLMNR poisoning, it doesn't have to be SMB. We're going to get into what exactly it is here in a second, and we'll talk about some techniques that I've used on pen tests that are kind of outside the box. Something to think about. So let's close out of this, close out of this. So in your server manager, you're going to come over to File and Storage Services. Over here, we're going to say Shares. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up a new folder here. Let's go to this PC. Let's go to the C drive. And we're going to right click and make a new folder. We're just going to call this folder Hack Me. Okay. So we're going to create a task up here under shares. We're just going to say new share. It's going to be an SMB share quick. We're going to select the share location under custom path. And we're going to select that Hack Me folder. Hit next. Share name is Hack Me. Hydra Hack Me will be the path to the share. Allow access-based enumeration displays only the files and folders that a user has permission to access. So if the user doesn't have permission, let's go ahead and set that. We're not going to encrypt it. Just going to hit next. Hit next. You can see that it's doing the, if we go into customize permissions, you can see that it has administrators and Marvel users have read and execute status. So we'll hit OK, hit next. And we're going to hit create. And it created it just like that. So if we go back over to our Windows machine, we're going to add that share. So just go to our folder. If you go into, where's the button? Maybe I need to be this PC. There we go. If you click on this PC, you say map a network drive. We'll just call it Z drive. You can put it whatever drive you want. Say Hydra. Cluo, you can do it either way. Okay, reconnect at sign in, hit finish, and now we have access to this Hydra Hack Me folder. Our lab setup is complete. Give me 1 second, I'm gonna drink some water, and then we're gonna go on to a little bit of exploitation and then wrap it up for the night. All right. So, what we're going to be talking about tonight is LLMNR poisoning, or also known as NBT-NS poisoning. So your LLMNR, that's your link local multicast name resolution. Your NBT-NS is a little bit older, but that is your NetBIOS name service. So basically what they're used to do is they are used to identify hosts when a DNS fails. And a big flaw of LLMNR and NBT-NS is that both the services utilize a user's username and their hash, their Windows password hash, typically NTLMv2, sometimes NTLMv1. So when it gets responded to, it sends over a hash, and we're going to take a look at what that might look like in a man-in-the-middle situation here in a second. I've got a nice little infographic. But also, it's just a way to, connect to like a share, just like we're doing now, using this name resolution. So what we do as an attacker, and let me pull this up. Somebody said, repeater, you're close. It's responder. But what we do as an attacker is got this nice little graphic here. So this is a classic man-in-the-middle attack. What's going on is across the network, there's all this traffic back and forth, and these hashes are flying back and forth. And sometimes there is a mistake or something that generates or triggers this action, right? So what happens is when these hashes go out, typically they're going out to a known share or known device. Sometimes, however, they don't know where to go, or there's a mistake that happens. And if you're sitting in a man-in-the-middle, you can say, hey, you send it to me when there's a broadcast message. And let's take a look at how this looks. So, for example, there's a share out there, right, that we say, okay, it's going to be hack me, right? And we just created hack me. But this says, hey, can you connect me to HackM? We typed in the wrong share name. Well, the server's not going to know what the share name is, right? It's never heard of HackM before. It's heard of hack me. So if it doesn't know what the heck you're talking about, the victim's going to say, okay, well, if the server doesn't know, then does anybody know? So now we're going to send out a broadcast message with our hash. Well, not with our hash yet, sorry. We're going to send out a broadcast message saying, does anybody know how to connect to this HackM? And me, as a hacker, sitting in the middle, is going to say, I do. I don't know what HackM is, but I'm going to lie to you, and I'm going to say, I know what it is. Just send me your hash, and I will connect you to that HackM folder. And the victim's computer is just going to say, okay, here's my hash. So this becomes dangerous, right? There's a couple of different attacks, and we're only going to talk about one attack today. We'll talk about the second attack first beginning of next week. So attack number one is we take that hash, we run Hashcat against it, and we try to crack the password. If the password is not complex or long, then we're probably cracking it pretty fast. We're using that to navigate around the network and see what sticks. And we'll talk about those techniques as well. Tonight, what we're going to be doing is learning how to capture the password and also how to crack the password. So we'll be doing that. Another idea, though, is instead of taking that hash and cracking it offline, another thought is you can take that and do something called relaying and try to send it to a server and use the hash to authenticate to a server via SMB without ever knowing what the password of that account is. So that's called NTLM relay, and we'll cover that next week. So in order to do what we're going to be doing is we're going to set up a man-in-the-middle listener with a tool called Responder. Now, if you have been following me since week 1, in week 1, we uninstalled Impacket and installed our own version of Impacket. So if you're all caught up, this should work just fine. If you're not caught up, this might not work. You may have to purge Impacket. We're not going to go back that way. If you just go watch week 1 video and catch back up, please do so. So let's go ahead and minimize this, and we're going to go into our Kali machine, and I'm going to show you how to set this up. And I'm going to talk about strategy here too. So let's just open up a terminal. Let's make this bigger for you guys. And we're going to say locate capital R on this responder.py. Okay, so it should be in your user share responder folder. So let's just cd to that. All right, so what I typically do is first thing, and this is the scenario we didn't cover. Let's talk about the scenario of what we're in with our network right now. The scenario is last week we exploited a machine and we got onto the network. We were inside the network doing internal commands. Well, let's say now that we are continuing on from that point. We're on the network. We're via VPN, or let's even say that we gained physical access. We plugged in the machine unknown to anybody else and just walked away. So we have remote access to this machine and we're just sitting on their network. No privilege at all, right? Just our own rogue computer. So we're going to take this rogue computer and we're going to try to escalate privileges in a way that I would in a penetration test. So the very, very, very first thing I do before I run scans, before I do anything, I turn on Responder. And because the scans, Nmap, Nessus, whatever you run, what that does is that starts generating traffic. Those scans generate traffic. And what Responder is listening for is traffic. So if there's a lot of traffic going across the network, the better it is for you because maybe something screws up, sends a hash your way, and you just gain all the hashes, right? That's the end goal. Now, the best time to run Responder is typically in the morning when everybody's coming into work or when everybody's getting back from lunch around 1 o'clock. So those are your two best target times. You can let it run all day and see what it captures, and typically I do. But definitely if you're doing an internal penetration test, you want to get this sucker running as early as possible so you can get all the hashes that you possibly can when people are coming into work and logging in, generating traffic, making noise. Somebody asked, what's the name of the attack that I just explained? So it is known as, I'll type it out here, LLMNR or NBT-NS poisoning. Like that. Now, I can never remember the full command, so I'm going to cheat just a little bit. All right. So we're going to fire up Responder here, and we're going to treat this just like an internal penetration test. So we're going to say Python responder.py. You're going to do a -I for your interface, capital I, if I can capitalize. You're going to say eth0, and then switches of R, D, and W. You wouldn't see this responder in the OSCP at all because this isn't an internal technique Typically, the OSCP is capture the flag / external technique. This is focusing on Active Directory. Your settings should look very similar to this. So if you didn't catch this, responder.py-i each 0-rdw. And you come in here, you should have LLMNR, NBT-NS, and it's doing DNS poisoning as well. And it's got all these different servers on. So we're not just doing SMB. We are, but we're not just doing SMB. We're listening on HTTP, HTTPS, WPAD, IMAP, POP3. You name it, we're poisoning it, except the auth proxy by default, we're not. And then we have options if we want, but these are off by default. That's absolutely fine. All right, so we're listening for events. Now, you might start to see some events come across in my household if I did things or something starting to talk. There's one right there. The Punisher just did something. The Punisher just sent out LLMNR for something, or MDNS. So you just saw an event come through. Now that's not a hash, that's just an event. So you'll see a bunch of events, and occasionally you'll get a hash. So let's look at if we can trigger another event here. It may have been actually locking itself. I have no idea what just caused that. My password's incorrect. That's not good. Oh, it's administrator. I'm locked out on the domain. I want to be on, I want to be on this guy. So if we come into here and we go into our PC and we just try to access this hack me, let's see if that generated anything. Yeah. So we just tried to connect to Hydra, and you're going to see that we sent something to Hydra here. So you're seeing these events come through. And now what we're going to do is we're going to push this along for proof of concept. If you're sitting in a network, eventually you're going to get something coming your way. But because we're not sitting in a network, we're going to force it along just a little bit. So what I want you to do is go to File, New Tab, make it really big for you guys, and just say ifconfig, and copy your IP address. 192.168.202.128, copy. I don't know if this is going to paste over, but I'm going to cross my fingers and say, let's do it. All right, up in the bar here, we're going to just put the IP address in and hit enter. We're going to try to connect to the share of our computer instead of our hacker machine, and just hit enter. It's not going to be able to get into it, but if we go back, there we go. It just sent a shit ton of hashes. It skips them once it already got one. And you can see now it says, hey, we got an NTLM version 2 hash. We've got the username of fcastle, and then you can see it's got the username, the domain, and then this is the hash. This is the NTLMv2 hash. Let's copy this bad boy, shall we? Just paste it into a file for now. Okay, let's talk strategy. Hey Gabe, thank you for the sub, I appreciate that. Okay, so strategy here, strategy time. You saw me point this maliciously at myself, right? We went in there, we typed in the IP address. It's probably gone now. It is, because it didn't resolve. So we can do this on a pen test. We can absolutely do this on a pen test. One place that I really love to use this is if you find default credentials, say like on a printer, or anything that has configuration abilities. Thank you, Burnt Toast. I appreciate that. So if we find this anywhere that has configuration abilities, and it allows us to store credentials, sometimes you'll see like a printer. Let's give an example, a printer, and it has an SMB share. Now you can't see username and password for the SMB share. It's typically, it's hidden, right? It's a bunch of asterisks or whatever. But sometimes it says, hey, what server or what computer do you want to send this file to? And you say, okay, here's the IP address. And a lot of times it has this test button. If you've ever set it up, you can test the SMB share connection before, or you can just save it even. Both will work. You put in the IP address of your computer instead of the computer it's set to, and guess what? The credentials for that SMB share user fly over to you. Now, a lot of times people aren't using least privilege, and those SMB shares have escalated privileges and are giving you instant win. The same thing happened not that long ago on another server. I don't remember what it was. It was some sort of VPN that I was able to log into bad already with default credentials, but they had a basically a domain account just sitting on their server that I pointed to myself, was able to crack it, and the password was like Starbucks something or another. So it went down really fast. It wasn't complex at all. And we'll get into defenses here in a second. But when you're running Responder and you're navigating around the network, if you're finding things like that, those are situations where you say, aha, I can point this to myself and capture this hash. All right, now we have two options. We've got the hash. Let's go back and try to crack it. So I'm going to save this file out. Actually, what I'll do is I'll copy this. And this isn't going to work. I'm going to show you how to potentially get it to work for your system. It could take a long time. So let's do this. I'm going to come into here and let's just go and say, we're going to say gedit hash.text. I'm going to paste that in there and save it. Now, if you ls, actually, let me locate rocku.text. All right. So something I've done on this computer that you may not have done already. And this is, I'll talk for a minute so you guys can have time to do this. If you type in locate rocku.text, typically you have a user share wordless rocku.text.gz. It's a zipped file. Open your folder, navigate to that list, to the zip, and unzip it. It is a large password list. If you've done any sort of basic hacking, you've probably seen this. If you haven't, it comes built into Kali by default. It's not the one that I run. I use one of the larger sec lists. I'll have to dig it up. But it's like in the billions as opposed to, I think this is maybe in the millions of word lists. So go ahead and just get that unzipped. And then I've got mine sitting in the rocku.text here, but I'm going to use Hashcat on my machine, I'm pretty sure, unless something's changed. So what we're going to do, though, is we're going to say Hashcat. And then we should just say m. Actually, let's do a -- help so I can show you what we're doing. So you need a -m. It's basically a code, right? And these are all your m's if you come into here. Yeah, these are still all m's. So all of these are the different type of hashes. These are modes. I guess the m stands for mode. All different kinds of hashes. If you come down into network protocols, NTLMv2 is here. It's under the mode of 5600. So we're going to be using 5600 for this one. So if we say hashcat -m 5600, and then typically it wants your hash, and then it wants a password list. So we can say root, and then we could say rocku.text and hit enter. We're going to run into an issue. First issue is if you're running on a VM, you're not going to be able to run this without using a -- force. So if you're following along on a machine itself with Kali installed directly, good for you. You win the internet. So you could try a -- force. Mine will not work. I am on a 9000 series i7, and it worked on a 7000 series. It does not work on this anymore. So if you're on a newer version of a CPU, you may run into this issue. So the alternative, anyway, and let's talk about this strategy too. I'm on a gaming computer. I've got a 1080 Ti. If you try to run this on a VM with the -- force, it's going to take a while to go through rocky.txt. If you are doing labs or anything, any type of password cracking, and you have anything of a decent, it doesn't have to be anything expensive, a decent graphics card, it's going to go through this Rocky list really fast. So something to think about. When I was doing the OSCP labs, it was taking me hours to run through Rocky. I had a 970 at the time, and it would take literally seconds to run through Rocky. So something to think about there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this hash over, and I'm just going to put it in that same hash file. Give me 1 second here, and I'll bring up my face so you guys have something to look at. I know you guys like it. Get to my Hashcat folder. Paste that. Almost done. Can I share the sec list? Yeah, I'll share it at some point. You saucy minx, thank you. Wow. So I'm running Hashcat 4.2.1 for Windows. You can run whatever you like. I know at one point they were saying Hashcat 3 was like the best if you wanted to run it on Windows, but I haven't had any issues with this. So go into command. I'm going to run command as admin, and then I'm going to come back to the screen. All right. So cd users Heath desktop Hashcat. All right. Hashcat 64.exe is what we're going to be running. Same thing. -m 5600. If you don't get Hashcat running, you can also use John. John the Ripper will work on NTLMv2 hashes as well. So M5600. Got a hashes.txt in here somewhere, and then rocku.txt. Okay, so it's going to start firing this off. It's going to take a second to load up the device kernels in memory, and then it's going to fire through this and try to attack this hash. And that was it. It went through 6.4% of the list that fast, and it also cracked the password, which was password 1. So now we've got the password for the user Frank Castle, and we're going to try to use that at some point as an attacker to navigate around the network. Now I'm going to leave it here for now. I'm going to leave it here only because I don't want to go further. We're going to talk about all kinds of strategies. Next week's really going to focus on hacking AD. Somebody asked about thoughts on AWS for cracking your other hosting services. They have hosting services out there that chain a bunch of graphics cards together or have that kind of computing power. If you want that to just log in and use for a crackbox, you're more than welcome to do that kind of strategy. I just have one locally that I like to use. Let me share my word list. Hold on, let me just get that open. You guys can look for it, and that way I don't have to Google it and find it and everything else. Give me 1 second. All right, the word list I use. Bring this over. It's called Real Unique. UNIQ. Real UNIQ. That's it. It's a 15 gigabyte word list. And it cracks quite a bit of passwords. Not the most effective. We've got some custom lists that we use internally that I can't share with you guys with custom rule sets and everything, and those work even better. But if you're looking for like a basic list, this is a good one to start with. All right, let's talk one more thing. Let's talk about defense strategies. Let me bring up the PowerPoint so I can talk this through with you real quick. All right. So, defenses. If you want to prevent this, you can disable LLMNR poisoning. A lot of admins do not like to do this, so there are other options as well. But if you want to know how to disable LLMNR, here are the defenses for that. Also, you'll have to disable NBT-NS. So we will navigate to those files in their proper locations and turn off disable NetBIOS over TCP/IP and disable the DNS client in the group policy editor. So if you don't want to do that and you are thinking of other defenses, then what are our options here? Well, we can require NAC. We can do network access control. So if you can't get onto the network, this attack can't be performed, right? There are bypasses to NAC. So it's not the latest and greatest, but it's one form of prevention. The other thought is to require strong passwords. Greater than 12 characters in strength or in length is what is said here, and limit comment word usage. Honestly, the longer the password, the better. If you've got a 40 character password, even if it's just a sentence, we're not going to be able to crack that. Really, it's hard to crack anything over 12. We have cracked 14 and 15 if you're using some kind of common word usage. One that came up recently was a Bible verse. So don't think it looked creative. Like it was a Bible verse, had a space in the password. I was impressed, but it still fell down. These very, very common words like that, they'll fall. So the longer, the better. I think mine's 20 something characters. My coworker's in the 40s. So just think of those strategies for defenses. So with that being said, we are going to hit the break button on this. We are going to be done for tonight. Maybe we can even get out early. Next week, we are going to focus more on the attacks and what we can do. We may even build out our lab a little more. I don't have the lesson plan completely finished. We need to scan the network as well. That's something we haven't done. We haven't run Nmap, but I'd rather wait till next week to actually get a feel for what's out there. And then we'll just continue to build upon it. There's also some things that I don't have set up that I don't know if I'm going to be able to set up. So, like, for example, MS1710 or Eternal Blue, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, like, set that up. But that's something that you really commonly see in... It doesn't necessarily pertain to Active Directory environments, but it definitely pertains to things you would see in an internal environment all the time. All right, let me get back on stream, start answering some of these questions. Have I ever considered doing a stream on Stack Overflows? We did one last week, and we are doing... Is Rory here? Are we doing a Stack Overflow tomorrow? Is that considered Stack still? I think we're still on the Stack. We have a stream on Overflows tomorrow night. Hey, Rory's here. Yeah, we're doing a Stack Overflow tomorrow night as well. So we've officially done 2 streams. Tomorrow's going to be the 3rd on Stack Overflows. So worth looking at the history, the VOD on here. Let me pull it up really, really quick. One second. Okay. This doesn't stream on Thursday, but we do have a guest stream. So if you come into videos, you will see that last week we did exploit development with Rory. That was a intermediate lesson. We also have, let's see if we click through it. I don't know how many we have left in here. Looks like it deleted the other one. You'd have to go to YouTube for that. So if you go to the YouTube link, there are a few in here actually. So if you go in the playlist, the buffer overflows made easy is like the very, very beginner of Stack Overflows. And then the introductory exploit development live stream was the one from last week with Rory. And then this week he is going to be focusing even more advanced materials covering egg hunting and some other stuff. Sorry, I'm missing questions here. I'm coming back. What would you say is success rate with LLMNR poisoning to getting helpful creds? Greater than 75% of the time. It allows some bit of access. Greater than 75%, I would say. Rory can answer that question too. But I would say I pop creds pretty much in every single instance unless there's for some reason a small network or it's not fully Active Directory. You're going to come across weak creds. Most environments aren't doing strong passwords, unfortunately, or people will take the length and just make it into like summer 2018 exclamation and then call it a day. And then somebody asked about the LLMNR, why it might be a bad idea to turn it off. If for some reason you're not able to resolve DNS, then if you don't have LLMNR on, you have no way to communicate internally, right? So there's no way to talk to other machines if DNS is down. So in an instance where DNS goes down, then you're going to have issues. Otherwise, as long as you have some certainty that DNS is always going to be up and running, it's fine to disable. Trying to catch up. Mr. Fox, are you from the US? If you're not from the US, that's why there might be a lag for you. We did cover mitigation, Cluo. I will put mitigation back on the screen for a second. From current slide. If you feel like reading that, you can read that for a second. How much did you spend for a decent password cracking rig? I mean, I would build a computer that has multi-purpose. I mean, we do have one that's just literally sitting there for cracking, but if you do any sort of gaming or anything else, it's just beneficial to have it. But the better rigs have multiple graphics cards. I only run one in mine and it's fine, but some of the password lists take a while. I've been thinking about buying another graphics card and chaining them both. All right, I'm taking this back down. We're having a conversation on relaying. That is something we're going to be trying to cover next week. So I got to get that down in the lab and get the setup correct. At work, do you use Cobalt Strike or Empire MSF? Primarily, I live in Metasploit. We do have Cobalt Strike. I'm not the biggest fan of Cobalt Strike. Some of the bigger companies, that's what they use exclusively. I prefer just give me Metasploit. I don't even use Empire, to be honest with you. Just give me Metasploit. We want to demonstrate the mitigation. We can push a policy. Hold on. You don't believe me or what, buddy? Apparently it's 625. I wish it was 625. We've got custom scripts to obfuscate Meterpreter. Actually, it's not reg edit, sorry. Group policy edit. We don't have permission. We'll probably have to do it from the domain. Does Veil still work? Veil does work, but we still use our own. I don't use Veil as much. I have used Veil in the past and it's worked fine. We may have to set up a group policy. Can you flush these capture hashes? What do you mean flush them? You could do whatever you want with them. Host-apd or ePammer? My coworker likes host-apd. I like ePammer. If we're talking enterprise wireless, he's all about host-apd. We're going to have to set up a group policy to define all this. Did customer ever lock you in a VLAN or prevent you from doing your job intentionally? No. However, so we do malware assessments where like you you test like the lowest level of malware that you can, and then you just start obfuscating it more and more and more, and then you see what level of malware you can sneak through and get shells back with. We had a client where we absolutely destroyed them in the internal. We're using malware everywhere. However, they came in and they gave us a computer for the malware assessment, and we did not get but like 1 or 2 pieces of malware through that machine. So you know for sure that they jacked up their malware, their AV or whatever, just for that assessment, because everything else in the network was not indicating that at all, and just that one machine was triggering on every single thing. So yeah, they definitely they try to get some wins in when they can. You'll have to delete the pot file or whatever file it is for Hashcat. It has a stored file. I don't remember what it's called. You'll have to Google it, MTX. Any podcasts I suggest? I like Darknet Diaries. There's a Sans podcast that's pretty good if you're going on like a 10-minute walk, 15-minute walk. There is the Many Hats Club, has some really good guests on there, including myself. But I mean, they've got some big names come across there, so it's worth checking them out and listening. I think that's really, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. Do you put username, host name in your report at risk of making the user look bad, potentially get fired? We do put the username in the report. We'll like obfuscate the password. However, we don't advocate for firing people that, you know, either get breached or have, like, say if we do a vishing attack where we call them on the phone, or a phishing attack or anything, if they become a victim and you fire them, then what lesson do you teach everybody else? If you train them and you tell them, like, okay, like, this is where you went wrong, this is how to fix it, more times than not, that person becomes an advocate for you for, for phishing. They know how to look for things. They tell their coworkers and become a trainer of their coworkers. So to fire them gives a very, very bad impression, and it makes people afraid to come to you in those kinds of situations too. So, I mean, it's not worth firing somebody over. If they're a repeat offender, if they've been trained and then it just happens again and again, maybe that's an issue. But if you show up on a report, like, that's one of the worst decisions, I think. When's my podcast coming out with Many Hats? I don't know. I've been checking the website too. I know they have to edit and they go through and they like actually type up little blurbs and stuff. So it takes a little bit. Somebody said Malicious Life's a good podcast. I've never heard of Malicious Life. Am I a member on HackerOne? I'm technically a member on HackerOne. I did the CTF thing. I don't like HackerOne, if I'm being honest. I'm on Synac, and I hardly like Synac as it is. So there's just some better opportunities in Synac. But I mean, HackerOne is just full of people. It's full up. That's a hard life. Why is it full of people? What's the why for? Why don't I like it? Bug bounty programs like BugCrowd, HackerOne, it's a catch-22, right? Like, they give you this open area for you to pen test on. If you start pen testing or web app testing on the ones that are paid, chances are you're never going to find anything if you're new. And if you do the swag ones, you might get points, you might find some stuff, but you don't get any money for it. So, like, it's this long ordeal of just trying to, I guess, earn money in a field where there's unlimited people that can come and attempt this at the same time. So your best bet is to get into a private bounty program, and getting into those requires you to find findings. So you're still stuck in this loop of being able to find the findings before you can get into the private bounty. So with that being said, that's why I said like Synac, because Synac already starts at a private bounty where it takes not just anybody off the street can get in. You have to go through a pretty decent process to be able to work your way through. And even those tend to get picked dry really fast. So most of my bounty claims on Synac have come from a box that's within like the first day or two. Am I familiar with Jacket, Crazy Radio PA, wireless keyload, mouse injection? No, I'm not familiar with any of that. You're talking way over my head. You got invited to several programs on HackerOne. Well, congratulations. I'm in a couple of private ones on HackerOne. I never did anything with it. It's just I would rather spend my time working on other stuff. Am I married? Yes, I'm married. Got my ring on my finger. Yeah, like one of the vulnerabilities I found was on Synac was site-wide CSRF. You're not going to find that on BugCrowd. You're not going to find that. Not many MTX, just a couple. I did Synac in the beginning pretty heavily. I think it took me at least 40 hours to find my first vulnerability, and they kick you out if you don't get your first one in 45 days. So you have to get that first one, and then you're a permanent member. So this is nice. We're gonna actually end early tonight. I'm incredibly tired as it is. I see Iayo's in here lurking. Iayo, sir, I have your stuff. I'm going to send it. It's a matter of time of getting down to the post office. I have not forgotten about you. Please don't hurt me. What's up, Sinister? Have I pwned using the latest exploit regarding unconstrained delegation? I have not. I have been doing all web apps lately. All web apps. My life has been nothing but web apps. The internals I get are related strictly to web apps. So I don't get an internal network lately. It's literally been come on site, do this internal environment of like 2 or 3, like a server, maybe a SQL database server, maybe a load balancer. It's not really a ton of stuff. Thanks for the sub, Iayo. I appreciate that. So unfortunately, I haven't done any internals lately. Thanks, cool dad. Appreciate it. I haven't done an external lately, now that I think about it. I've been living the web app life. First bug bounty was RCE? Dude, that's dope. RCE is like the dream. So I OAuth spray with Meterpreter. I just leave it at whatever default rate it has. Typically, if I'm OAuth spraying, the chances are that the client doesn't have any lockout, for being honest. A web code share? Oh, that's cool. I've got a bug crowd card I got here. What is it? Oh, I've got a special event card where they give you a private program to join. Yeah, most of the clients that I test against are pretty large. So if I'm spraying against like 600 or 700 people and they have a weak password policy, chances are it's going to stick on the first run anyway. So, I mean, season year combo is gold, right? Most fun bug bounty complete? I guess the one that's paid me the most money, because I haven't done that many bug bounties. And that was the most money I made off of one was $750, and that was for the site-wide cross-site request forgery. So, which they really worked with me, because that was my first one on Synac. And they I submitted it, like I knew it was there, and I submitted a proof of concept, and they were like, they kicked it back, and they're like, you know, we need more details. And then I went back and I submitted it again with more details, and they're like, no, we want more details. So finally I went in there and just did like 5 different proofs of concepts for all these different areas. Like you could change username, password, full account takeover. But there was like all different kinds of locations because they weren't doing it anywhere. And they really worked with me. Like they were just kicking it back, you know, to make sure that I knew how to really write a bug bounty. So it was a pain, but it was a good learning lesson for me to actually understand what kind of detail goes into submitting one of those. Have I ever crashed anything during an internal? I've not crashed anything. We have taken down a test server testing for SQL injection once. It was a really, really bad test server. Like as outdated as you could probably get. So I would call that denial of service if you ask me. All right, we're going to call hard stop at 10 o'clock. Do you have any funny stories about things that happened with a customer? A friend was telling you that some testers started hitting some stuff that was off limits. The client got pissed and called the cops. That was hilarious to call the cops and can't even imagine. I don't have any funny stories like that. So my coworker was doing a physical assessment for a large company with basically the bells and whistles of security. So he hopped a fence, and they kind of cheated the situation anyway. They've got like a picture of him because they knew he was coming. They put a picture up of him, like, don't let this guy through type deal. And he ends up hopping a fence. They see him, and it's literally just him running around, and they're chasing him, and he's going like back and forth, and they just like, I guess the security got really pissed off because he eventually evaded them, and then he went and sat inside their security office and waited for them to get back, which is a boss move. So he tells that story way better than I do because he lived there, but I think it's pretty funny to have a chase, a chase like that, and just end up sitting and waiting for them to come back at their own security desk. Security guys must have been pissed. Yeah, they were pissed. From the way he tells it, they were super pissed. It's kind of cheating, though, to like put up a picture of him for a physical assessment and say, don't let this guy in. But clients cheat. Just like Techno was asking if anybody's cheated a little bit. Yeah, they cheat a little bit. SQL injection fire test? What are you talking about? Oh, I have no idea. I've never even heard of that, to be honest with you. What's my opinion on the thing? That everything is going on the cloud versus standard red internal on-prem regarding our jobs, future, etc. If everything's going to the cloud, then learn the cloud. I don't think our jobs are ever going to be in jeopardy. I just don't. I could preach on that all day. There's always going to be a need, and there's never going to be enough people. There's a reason we have a shortage, and the reason is not a lot of people can do this job. A lot of people think they can do this job. Not a lot of people are that good at it. Not a lot of people have the determination, dedication to stick it out, to problem solve the way that a pen tester does. It's just, we're wired differently. We like to study, we like to learn, and people think it's sexy. They want to do this job because it's sexy. You can be a hacker. It sounds cool. But if you don't have that motivation to study and learn, you're never gonna make it in this field. And that is the reason, one of the big reasons, in my opinion, we have such a shortage as it is. There are more jobs than people to fill them right now. And we have been interviewing, and it has been terrible. You get OSCPs even coming in and interviewing. They don't know the first thing about what they're talking about. So, I mean, there's just a lot. There's a big gap right now between a pen tester and trying to break in the field pen tester, and then those who think it sounds cool pen testers. So I think our jobs are safe regardless if it moves to the cloud or doesn't move to the cloud. What do we look for? So if I'm hiring you, I am looking for a few things. Like, first of all, there's like these intangible traits, right? Like, well, I like, for one, a person that goes out and is active in the community. I like to see a person who likes to give talks, who likes to write blog posts, who likes to research. That if that person is hacking after work, that person likes doing what they're doing and it's not work to them. You know, it's not just another job. It's something that they're passionate about. So those kinds of qualities off the bat, really good. If we're talking about a technical level of skill, I want you to know at a baseline how to, at least know your 5 steps of hacking. That you're gathering information, you're scanning, doing enumeration, you're hacking, exploitation, etc. You're going down that list, you're explaining it. I don't need you to know every single tool or every single command of a tool, but I need to know that your methodology is solid. When it comes to internal pen testing, I need to know your methodology there as well. I need to know that you know how to do things like this LLMNR poisoning, that you know how to do, like NTLM relay that we're talking about, or Kerber roasting, or token impersonation, or pass the hash, or you know what crack map exec is, like all these little tools. You know what Kiwi is. Those tools, to me, yeah, it's important to know those for internal. Like, talk me through your path, your methodology. How would you do it? I want the person that's going to spend time and really think about what the next move is, and not just going to fire off an exploit because they found it on exploit DB. On top of that, a good wireless foundation's fine. What you don't know, that's fine. You can pretty much look it up in a blog post. And OWASP top 10, you don't have to be a web app guru to come in, but you should know some of the top 10. You should know what we're looking for and how to remediate it. We can train you, send you to training, teach you those sorts of things. But you would be surprised, even the OSCPs or whoever comes in does not have a baseline knowledge to get into our field. There is not a baseline knowledge. So there is a huge gap between what I just described and the people trying to get into jobs right now. And there's even a bigger gap between the people that at least have some knowledge, like the OSCP, they at least get an understanding, and then the people that, have the CEH or something and think they're a hacker, or have done a box on Hack the Box and think they're a hacker. It's a completely different field, completely different life. And I just rambled on. Let me scroll back up and read what everybody's saying. Sorry. Looking. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to catch up. There's a lot of stuff going on. From an IT perspective, pen testing is looked down upon. How does someone break into a field, or most of it seem negative? I have never heard of pen testing being a negative. Never. Even people in IT are like, wow, you're in pen testing? That's cool. They could lie to my face, right? But I've never heard it as a negative. If you want to break into this field, you learn all the things I just told you, you have an attitude where you feel like you never know enough, you want to keep learning, and that's your life for the rest of your life. It's a very certain personality type, I feel like, that gets into this field. Like a true pen tester, they're going home and they're studying at night. Like it's not work, it's a hobby, but it's something you're passionate about and you want to learn, or you're going to get left behind. If I'm interested because it seems like it's really, really hard and intense, is that a good sign? If you like a challenge, it's a good sign. You still got to be in it for the right reasons. There's a million jobs that I could tell you are hard and intense. It doesn't mean I would be interested in them. Like, I don't want to be a brain surgeon, right? And that, to me, would probably be really, really hard and intense. Do you think one can have a successful career without ever learning or being interested in a web app? It depends on your definition of success. If you want to move up and make big money, you got to know web app. If you want to stay in like okay, if you just keep learning, unless you're a network god, right? But even at that point, everybody's moving to web apps. That's where everything is. But if you're this network god, maybe there's a place for you, a special place if you can find your own niche. But the more categories you know, the more work you can do, and the more profit you can earn for yourself, in my opinion. I would never stop learning if you can. What in the world is the OSCP good for? The OSCP is good for foundations. It's good to teach you the methodology and persistence, and it shows to us, at least at a baseline, that this person has the attitude or willingness to overcome a problem. It's not up to date in terms of technique or tactics or wireless or internal or web app. It literally teaches you the external basics and methodology, and I guess teaches you to try harder or be persistent. That's why, at least in nowadays, people like the OSCP. HR loves the OSCP, but the OSCP it's not. I mean, I'm hoping it gets revamped. I've heard it's going to get revamped. I don't know when that's going to come. So, does your company have any lab you give to potential employees? I once interviewed for a job at Coalfire when I was still in college for an internship, and they gave me a packet with screenshots asking me to explain what's happening in certain attacks. It's kind of cool. So we have a very old school way of doing interviews here. I am working to change that. My goal and what I got approval for, we just had our manager just stepped down. There's no management position right now. So I've asked to change the process for the interview. We just demoed an interview through it, and it went really well. So we are planning on moving towards a initial quick phone screen, going into a web app based capture the flag, into an environment that eventually gets into some sort of domain environment that you have to actually privesc into domain admin. The goal is to have people write a pen test report based on that experience and their findings, submit the report. If the report is good and they get all the way through, then we'll come on site for a debrief of the report so we can see their presentation skills and how they would act in front of a customer. And we would also get to ask them more in-depth questions about some of the topics. So that is the goal for the new way. I am a fan of that methodology. You're finding getting into pen testing is challenging. Should you go for a SOC position instead? It depends what you want to do. Do you want to be blue team or do you want to be red team? I mean, that's completely up to you. If you're willing to study and overcome the hurdles, you know. I think it's a possibility to get into pen testing, but that completely is up to you what you're more interested in, and if you're going to back off because it's challenging, unless you just don't think you're ready and you want to move up. If a SOC position's a step up for you, maybe you're just not ready for pen testing. Is CEH more up to date over OSCP? I don't think so. Well, okay, up to date. Maybe that's a good question. I'm not sure. Is it better for you? No. I would not recommend anybody to get the CEH unless they absolutely need it for a job. OSCP just add another subnet labs with modern Active Directory setup. It would be everything it needs to be. Correct. I agree with that. With some more up-to-date machines, But you're never gonna find, like, it's just really capture the flag type stuff. I don't know. I wish the OSCP was more realistic in terms of internal pen testing. What about the CISSP? What about the CISSP? What do you want to know about it? That is a Shellman way. Did you interview for Shellman MTX? I did not have a good experience with them. If you did and we talked about it, I'm sorry. How many hours of work are you expecting folks to put in for that interview process? So I would say that the capture the flag type work would take no more than 4 to 6 hours of your time at most. I would probably allow a candidate 24 to 48 hours to actually do that because life gets in the way. And then another 24 hours to write the report. Doesn't mean they couldn't do the lab and write the report in 8 hours if they wanted to. I'm not gonna like make it some grueling process. What's the average salary for a US junior mid senior? Pentester, let's see. The lowest I've seen juniors go is like 65, and if you take a job at 65, you're crazy. I came in at 100 as a junior. So, I mean, and that's at a decent area. Like, I wasn't living in a high cost area. So, I think if you're taking less than 90K, you're probably coming in too low, given the market's really hot right now. Mid-tier pays anywhere from 130 to 150, maybe even a little bit closer to 170, depending on location. I've seen some crazy numbers. The really, really, really good ones make a lot more money, or they go into pen testing for themselves and make a lot more money. So, but I mean, if you get to director level, you're making some bank. You're moving now? We need people. Do I think the CISSP is a good cert? So from everybody I've talked to, I don't have the CISSP. From everybody I've talked to, they hated every moment of it, but they don't regret it. So it's really good for like HR. It sells really well to have it like listed on a business, or, you know, people see the CISSP and they're like, oh, that guy must know security. So from that perspective, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting it. I think it's considered one of the better certs to have in terms of monetary purposes. So I wouldn't knock it just because people don't like it. I don't know about 300K, but I've seen 200K. I've seen 300K. There's a guy making 300K in Charlotte, but he's at a director level. Which 300K in Charlotte's a lot of money. It's a lot of money anywhere, but it's a lot of money in Charlotte. Yeah, there was a salary spreadsheet that went around. Let me see if I can find it. I'll just let you guys use it because I don't really care. They polled all the pen testers and stuff in the field and asked about location, experience. Let me see if I can find it. Give me one sec. And I kind of split it up. I don't know. Okay, I do have it. Let me create a shareable link. All right. This should give you guys a decent idea about salaries. And I could pull this up if it's that interesting. Hold on. I don't know why it has all these spaces. It didn't used to. Me screen only. Okay. So they went in and said, this is in 2018. Are you a consultant? What gender are you? What's your role? And you can see how long they've been in InfoSec. How long were they in tech prior to? Are they on-site or remote? So pentester, 110 in Seattle, not a lot of money. 90K in Atlanta, not a lot of money. 85 in Wichita, I don't think that's a lot of money either. See, this person's a remote director at 115, not a lot of money. $520,000, that's a lot of money. 160, that's a lot of money. You guys are saying that I'm saying 110 is not a lot of money. I'm talking about for the field. For the position, for the location, 110 for a pen tester is not a lot of money. In Seattle, that's not a lot. Seattle's very expensive. But this gives you a feel for what people are making and after how many years. See, somebody's making 60K as a pen tester with 1 to 2 years experience, not a lot of money. I wouldn't work for that low. Somebody down here, 1 to 2 years of tech experience, 3 to 5 years, they're making about 100K. 180, 120. 100K in Cleveland's not bad. 270 in San Francisco, it's not a lot of money. It's good money, don't get me wrong, but you're talking like probably 170, 180 anywhere else. So it depends how long they've been in the field, what they're doing. 295 as a director in Charlotte, that's a lot of money. $240, that's a lot of money. So things to think about. 150 in Denver. 150 in Denver. Denver's becoming more and more expensive. But I mean, this is pretty good money. If you can get a remote job, take it. Yeah, absolutely take a remote job. It's worth its weight in gold. Absolutely, Rory. Any thoughts on the new OffSec web app course? I have no thoughts. I have not taken it. I'm not going to take it. I've got my web app certification. I've got to take the extreme web app from eLearnSecurity here in a few days. So, what's up, Zalton? How you doing? Yeah, man, I roll out of bed at 7:55 to work at 8 o'clock. It's pretty awesome. Half the time, don't even wear clothes. Just throwing that out there, giving you guys that image. Salton, if you knew how to hack anything, I'd be impressed. Suggestions of cool projects to put on a resume? I would start with a blog, start blogging. You know, just always have a blog on your resume, I think, in my opinion. Hack the Box is seen decently if you can get up to a decent level, like pro hacker or whatever. That looks decent on a resume. A home lab looks okay, like a tinker, but like have some sort of tangible thing that I can go out and see that you have a blog. I can go out and view your profile on Hack the Box, you know, like give me things that I am capable of seeing that you're actually putting in effort. If you say, I've got a home lab, how can I verify that? So that's where I would start. Do some volunteer work for some communities. Try to become an admin on a server or something. That's cool. Bye, Matt. It's nice talking to you. My opinion on the WAPT cert, I like the WAPT cert. If you want my full opinion, I'll just promote my blog. How about that? Screen only. Where is it? It's in here somewhere. eLearnSecurity off to the side. Got my whole review in here. Look at this. Look at that thing. This is my gift to you. I liked it. I liked it enough to buy the extreme version. I am... What's my preferred hardware firewall? I'm not a big network guy, even though I'm an ex-network guy. At home, I really don't run a lot of custom stuff. So, I mean, I just like to have whatever's built into my router. That's it, man. Sonic walls? You don't know about my life. All right, 4 minutes. I'm already past my 10 o'clock. I just ramble. Guys got me rambling. An MTX, you message me and tell me that I said Shellman was a grueling interview process. I did. And that I'm not making it into the same process. Shellman was an HR screen, a talk with the director. It was a 48-hour capture the flag that took all 48 hours. It was a report that took another 20 hours to write. Then it was a debrief with their team and just their team of pen testers. Then it was another interview with the director. It was an interview with somebody above the director after that, and then it was an offer. That's grueling. My process is literally a 2 or 3 step process. It's a quick phone conversation after a resume. I send you through to the CTF. Either you're good at the CTF and write a good report, or you're not. Like, if you get to the second stage, then there's a second stage. There's nothing grueling about it. It's 2 interviews. So don't hate. Did I buy the full version of eLearning? I did not. I bought the, well, I bought the middle one. Is that the full version? So for 2 of them, I bought the, whatever, elite version. But I didn't buy that for the pen test. I bought the pro. Got it. I don't know what they're all called. I bought the middle one. I didn't need a lot of lab time for the first one. I bought it for the extreme version of the web app as well, but I also bought PTP and I bought Aries. So those I bought on the elite version because I don't know when I'd have time to do them. But that's why. What's up, humble servant? Can I code in PHP? I can't code in anything, my friend. One minute. I get out of here a little bit early. Any questions? Last question? One more question? If you want more lab time, should you get the 3rd tier? Yes, that and that the certification attempt never expires. So I am facing where my certification expires in a week, and I either have to pay $100 to renew it or take the certification and attempt the free re-attempt when they get back to me. Because I am not prepared for that. I have only gone through 1/3 of the material. So if you foresee yourself needing more lab time or needing more time to take the certification, then the 3rd tier is worth it. When am I taking you to lunch? I think you owe me lunch, sir, because I am constantly having to save you from yourself. Is the pen testing student a good entry-level cert? It's a good start. If you're going to take PTP, I think PTS is a pretty good start. A lot of people like it, so. It is 10:15. I would love to stay longer. I am trying to get out a little early because I am exhausted. So I will catch you guys next week. We'll get into way more detail than we did this week. We may go a little crazy. We'll see. So I will catch you guys later. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Until next time, see you later.